So you finally got the admit to your dream university in the US. Congratulations for that. Now it's the time to know about what are the things that you should and should not do when you first land in the US. I wish someone had told me these things. I would have saved tons of hours, tons of money, and a lot of space in my luggage when I was packing for my trip to the US. The first and the most important thing is getting your finances sorted, which means getting your bank account set up, getting yourself a social security number, which we'll dive deep into in another video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be the first one to see that video when it comes out. And we'll also talk about credit cards a little bit in this video, but I have a whole another video coming out just for that. So when talking about bank accounts, it's a really different concept when you compare it with India. We usually open a savings account when we are in India, and there's something called a current account, which is usually used by businesses when they have large amounts of spends going in and out. But for most folks back in India, we use something called a savings account. Over here in the US, we have something called a checking and a savings account. But savings account is more where you can just park your money and get the high interest rates, where you can earn a lot more on the money that you have parked over there. But for everyday spend or something like that, you open what is called a checking account. Now the good thing about banks in the US like Chase, SoFi, who offer you to open a checking account is that they give you bonuses when you open up a checking account with them. Those bonuses can range anywhere from $200 to $400 depending on the first direct deposit you set up. What a direct deposit is, we'll come to that in a little bit. But essentially these banks are giving out free money to open up a bank account with them, and the reason that they do it is so that you can set up a long-term partnership with that particular bank when you would ultimately open your credit cards or other sort of investing accounts and whatnot. The bank is essentially trying to create a long-term partnership with you. Now coming back to the topic of direct deposits is essentially the way you receive your salary, stipend, payroll or bi-weekly pay, and it's set up in the form of a direct deposit. The higher your direct deposit is, the more bonus the bank account will give you, because the banks get to keep more of your money parked in their systems rather than it going anywhere else. And banks like Chase and SoFi right now are offering $300 when you set up a checking account with them along with a direct deposit in the first 90 days, which means essentially when you get an on-campus job, you would be eligible for the $300 bonus from that checking account. If you want the link to that, just check the description below. You can use my link to get the $300 bonus for Chase checking accounts, which is the bank that I prefer and a lot of other students here when they first land prefer to open their accounts with, because it's really evolved in the space of credit cards to banking to investing and whatnot, and whatever banking needs you might have in the future, Chase has it all. This is not sponsored by the way, but I just love Chase's system and how it operates and how reliable it is. But let's talk a little bit about social security number or your SSN. In order to get your social security number, you need to have a paid job, which is essentially an on-campus job for international students, which means once you're hired as a teaching assistant or a research assistant, which by the way also comes with their own tuition waivers for public universities. If you don't know how that works and want to check out the video, I have a whole video about it. It should be linked somewhere up here. Just click on it and you can go watch that as well. But essentially when you are on a paid job through your university for on-campus employment, you can apply for something called a social security number, which is used for everything to monitoring your credit, and it's kind of the one number which is used everywhere in terms of your taxes, finances, even healthcare up to some extent. And once you have a social security number, you can apply for more and more credit cards. There are a few credit cards that you can apply without social security numbers. I have a full video coming out on how you can apply for a social security number and also get a credit card, and what kind of strategies to follow when applying for different credit cards and how you can maximize the rewards for that. So if you're new here, subscribe to the channel to ensure that you are one of the first ones to watch it when it goes live. Another really important thing is setting your money aside for the tuition that you have to pay. A lot of people make this mistake when they first land in the US, that they don't set aside money in time for the tuition payments, and sometimes they get charged an interest for late payments and whatnot. So as soon as you land in the US, just figure out how you are supposed to pay for your tuition, or even before landing in the US, just figure out how you are supposed to pay your tuition. If you have taken a loan or are paying by self, just get the loan amount dispersed to whatever way that you want to ultimately pay it via, and just set that money aside. And also what you should set aside is rent for a couple of months, or at least 3 or 4 months, and also your living expenses. A tool that I really like to use is NerdWallet, which would help you with average estimate costs in almost all the cities in the US, which you can use to calculate how much your grocery will cost, how much would the rent be, transportation and whatnot. I highly recommend you go check out NerdWallet. It should be linked in the description as well, where you can get average prices of how much the rent would be and your transportation costs. and your grocery costs would be depending on the city that you're living in. Once you have all of the money matters sorted in the first couple of days, now to open a bank account you would need your passport, your I-20, and also your lease about where you're going to be staying and where you're going to be residing, because the bank needs a verifiable address from your end in order to create an account for you. So don't forget to carry all the necessary documents. They would be linked somewhere down in the description about what you need to carry when you're opening a first checking account in the US. So just don't forget to carry. You can save an extra trip to and from the bank. The next thing you should do is visiting your local Target or Walmart store and getting your essentials sorted out. When you're moving to the US for your studies, you're likely carrying a lot of clothes, a lot of pre-packed food, some utensils, and all the other essentials that you need. But sometimes it's better to not carry a lot of things from India, like bed sheets, pillows, pillowcases, hangers, and all of these, because they're likely going to be much more cheaper here in the US when you compare it with India. And even if they're not cheaper but the same price, you would be essentially saving up space in your luggage when you're supposed to fit your entire life in 2 suitcases of 23 kgs each. It's really hard to do that, and for that I have prepared a couple of lists which you can follow about what you can carry from India and what you should buy from here. And I think if I had something of that sort when I was packing my bags, I would have saved a lot of space in my luggage rather than carrying the bed sheets, which were much bigger than what my bed size is here, which is pretty inefficient in itself. And I also ended up carrying a lot of utensils which did not end up being compatible with the kind of gas stove we have here. So I made a big blunder on that, and those utensils are just put away somewhere in my house. I don't even know where, which we don't even use anymore because you just can't cook anything on them on the gas stove that we have. The list which I was mentioning about is a list of 40 things that you should get first when you move to the US, depending on your needs and wants, obviously. But it is a list that I prepared according to my learnings and my experiences here in the US. And also most of those things are already available at Target or Walmart at much cheaper rates than you could buy it elsewhere. The third most important thing is learning about public transport in your cities and learn the important routes to and from your university and your classes. For example, on the screen is the public transport map of the university that I go to, and if you can figure out how it works, please let me know as well, because even after spending 1.5 years at my university, I'm not yet able to figure out how these routes work on this particular map. But actually taking the routes and going in them multiple times has kind of made me memorize about which bus goes where, and that's kind of very important when you're running late on time for your classes, or if you have to get somewhere for an important event or a career fair and whatnot, and you should not be scrambling last minute to know about what route goes where. Obviously you can find all of this on Google Maps and Apple Maps, but it's sometimes better to keep a few very important routes in your memory so that when the time comes and when you don't have your phone, or if something goes wrong and you need to rush somewhere, you kind of remember the public routes in your head. And the fourth and the last thing that I want to leave you with is actually going to your classes. Now this might sound a bit weird that, oh yes, I'm definitely going to visit my classes and I'm not going to just sit at home before my classes start. I'm going to go around and explore the university. If that's you, that's really good. But go to the classes with the intention of knowing about where each and every class is and how you can get from one class to the other, and try to memorize those routes if you're going to walk on it rather than taking public transport. But you won't believe how many people actually don't go to their classes before the actual semester starts, and then when it's time to go to their classes, when the actual course is being taught in the class, they get late for the first few days because they are just not able to estimate about how much time it would take them to go from their home to their classes and back, or from one class to the other class. And the thing about universities in the US is you are free to choose your own classes and you're free to choose your own subjects that you want to study. And if you are at point A and your other class is at point B, but there's just a difference of 10 minutes between those, it might just be enough for you to cover that particular distance. But if you don't know what the route is and how you can get there more efficiently, it might end up being difficult and you can get late for the first few classes, which you don't really want to do when you're trying to create a good impression with the professors and the teaching assistants and whatnot. All I'm saying is just spend a couple of days trying to know about each and every class that you're going to take in the first semester at least, and where those classes are, how those halls look like, and what kind of amenities do they have. Do they have a charging port? Where is the charging port that you can use to charge your laptop and whatnot? And one last and a bonus tip for you guys is actually getting to know your teaching assistants, because more often than not, teaching assistants are the ones who are responsible for creating new papers, creating assignments, actually grading your papers alongside the professor, and in turn they also control a lot of how your grading would be done. So if you make acquaintances with the teaching assistants and get to know them better and try to talk to them, interact with them, they would also try to help you out with a lot of different assignments or doubts that you might have, and it would be very easy for you to approach them. Just consider them as your best friends before approaching the professor, because I have been a TA for all the semesters that I was here at UIUC, and I was able to help out so many students here with the questions that they have on assignments, grading, and whatnot. And they didn't even feel the need to go to the professor, because teaching assistants are usually students as well, and you are a student as well, so they understand exactly where you're coming from, and they're one of the best people to get help from. Again, as mentioned previously, there's a list of all the important things that you should buy from here rather than bringing it from India, and also it contains a list of things that you should get from India rather than buying it over here, because it might be more expensive here. Just feel free to check it out because it's free for you guys, and if I had something like that, it would have really helped me back then when I was packing my suitcases to come to the US. But anyway, please like this video, and if you find these kind of videos useful for yourself, consider subscribing to the channel as well, as it helps me out a lot, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.